Welcome to Sister Friends. I'm Angie Gray here with my amazing friend,
ReShonda Young.
and together we're diving into what's at the heart of it all, relationships.
From finances and family to the ups and downs of life partnerships, and even those relationships we have with ourselves, we're here to talk about the real stuff.
We're not shying away from the hard conversations, we're leaning into them because we believe that when we start talking, we start understanding.
And when we understand, we grow in empathy, compassion, and connection.
So grab a seat,
Grab a friend, and let's
get into it. Hey everyone, I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm ReShonda Young.
And we are
Sister
Friends. So we're excited, and you're going to lead the show today.
Okay, yeah.
We're just gonna. We have another fly.
Our
in here.
mascot is flying around, bugging us,
fine.
but it's okay.
Yep.
So today we are going to talk about something a little different than what we've been talking about lately. We mentioned it in our last episode. It's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian L. Weiss, or Weiss. It's Weiss. So if anybody is interested in checking out the book, that's the author and that's the book.
Yes, and we listened to the audio. I'm not totally through with it yet. I wish I was. But it's just been a few days since you told me about it. So I'm jamming on it, and I love it so much. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite. I was just telling ReShonda, it really is my favorite thing to talk about. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the author, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
Yeah. So let's just say that if you haven't read it, go read it. If you don't think you'll ever read it, that's fine. We're going to talk about it a lot. So if you plan to read it, just maybe give an overview about it. Yeah. And then,
Yeah. So the author, Brian, he's a psychologist, and he was very traditional in his thought process. And so when he got a patient, her name is Catherine. So when he got her and started to do the normal things that he would do to break barriers. She was having a lot of anxiety, lots of fear, just a lot of things that were going on. And so the normal things that he was doing weren't helping. And so then he started to regress her. And her earliest memory went back to age 3, where she remembered a very traumatic event that she'd had. And it seemed like there was a little bit of help with getting back to that memory, but not enough at all. Like, he really didn't find it to be like anything really significant. So he was trying to get her to regress back further. What he did not expect was for her to start actually going into previous lives.
right.
And he was actually able to, with many of the things, by the end of the book, he's able to actually go back and verify.
Don't tell me. Okay.
Some things. I won't tell you.
Okay.
So it wasn't just like, oh, she's, this person who's putting on a show. Mm-hmm. He was actually able to go back and verify. And there were things that she would have zero clue about with his life.
Yeah, I found that. So I want to add that he has numerous credentials, like crazy academic credentials, and that he was, this is all very important to me. Even though I love talking about spiritual things, I also love science. I mean,
Me too.
Yes, I know you do. And what's so cool about it for me is anything like this, especially hearing stories from someone who is an absolute 100% academic. This dude has a Jewish background, but had no training in his doctrine at all. Like, he didn't grow up going to church, or they didn't talk about it. That was just his, what their family did. But he didn't have anything, and he didn't believe in anything.
No.
He super, super traditional. And then I would add that the regression thing is a normal psychotherapy. And then the life thing, past lives things just happened. I think you said that, but to reiterate, that just happened. And he, even an hour into the audiobook, he has been checking things like, doubting it the entire time.
Right.
I just love anything that changes our minds,
Right. And it took him like 4 years to actually tell this
Oh,
story.
was it only 4 years? Okay.
Yeah, but which was a while
Yeah.
because, he'd been thinking he needed to put something out there,
Yeah.
but it took him like 4 years before he could actually get himself to tell the story.
Because he was afraid
He was
professionally
afraid.
how people would view him. And I also loved hearing in this book, and we're talking, if you just came in, we're talking about what's it, Many Minds?
Many lives, many
Lives,
masters.
Many Masters. Thanks. What was I going to say? He talked about, I can't remember. Anyway, move on. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. This is so fun.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've talked about
Oh, yeah.
are our personal experiences.
Yeah.
And
Not much. I mean,
we've
should we
talked a
say
little
that part?
bit.
Okay, so touching on, because this is going to be very cool for me.
Okay.
So touching on the last episode, I shared with you guys that I was like, "What in the world?" She told me about this book, and it's about these past lives as part of it, right? And I was very surprised by that because I have been talking about sort of different, non-traditional spiritual things that people don't just talk about in an everyday conversation. And I've been talking about this. It's my sort of jam and interested in whatever God wants to show me for the last 20 years. And so we've been friends for close to 10 years, if you can believe that. That is so cool. And when we would start talking about it, I would gently start introducing these things that I have experienced in my family, in my personal life, a whole bunch of things. And I would gently start doing it. And you always acted like you knew what I was talking about. And you were never surprised. You never acted surprised or that it was weird.
Right.
But you didn't, because what we now know about ReShonda is that she doesn't offer it. If you don't ask straight up, she's not going to say. So,
No.
and that's okay. But I've now 10 years later learned this. And so now I have to be very specific. And so she has no idea what she's in for because I'm going to be real specific. But anyway, but you would tell me that you had dreams. You would refer to dreams you have. And I have some really, really special friends that are very, very gifted. And I would share that with ReShonda. Also didn't surprise you. So I knew there wasn't any fear, and I knew I could talk about my experiences, but you never offered yours really. You just would tell me about a dream that you had, and you're always very, very sure of your dreams. So I knew there was something there, but because you didn't say anything, I didn't know that I could keep sharing, honestly. So this is, you guys are in real time right now. This is a real life right now conversation that we're having.
Right.
Like I really
we have nothing scripted. I don't know what you're about to say.
Yeah. So I really didn't know. I mean, and I just said that this is something I would like to talk about all the time. And I haven't shared everything with you.
Right.
I mean, crazy, beautiful, wonderful things.
Yes.
And so when she said this to me before recording our last episode, I was like, what? I was so careful. I thought you'd break up with me, like, as friends. And then now I know that she's got this other humongous, thick onion layer that we're going to peel back. And you're going to share with me, I think that's what we're going to do, why you like this book, and share some experiences with me if you want to.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. I guess I'm sharing it with everybody, right?
Yeah. Hi. There's that fly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So,
So
if you're okay with that, I mean, we don't have to go there,
no,
but
we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. And then for you, the same.
Yeah.
Like experiences and why you really love all of this. So,
and we probably are going to, just to say, we're going to have to do this in 2 parts, probably. Because we only have a short period of time today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So from the time I was very, very young, like literally, I still remember, okay, all right, I'm going to go back even further, but 2 years old was the first memory that I have of like God, Holy Spirit talking to me, guiding me. And that was
2 years old. Wow.
Yeah, I was in the back seat of a cab.
With your grandma or your aunt?
Going from my grandmother's house to my mom's house.
Yes. When you found,
I found that pill that I thought was an M&M.
Yes.
And as a 2-year-old, I wanted to eat it.
Yes.
And the voice, as I would call it, just kept saying, no, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Take it to mama. And
2 years old, I feel like I want to pause there. Like, that's a big deal. We don't mostly have memories of when we're 2 years old.
I remember it like it was, I remember it like, it was just, maybe a week ago.
Yeah.
It's so vivid. And the cab driver, talking to me, I was being distracted by the cab driver, but then when he stopped talking, then and I will say also at 2 years old,
You don't
I
know, like,
oh no, I was talking. Like I was a talkative
well,
kid.
2-year-old? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my mom never talked baby talk to me.
Yeah, you
So
told me
there
that.
was never baby talk. It was always conversations.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to him. And then when we're not talking, then I am thinking about this, what I thought was an M&M that's in my hand. And the voice keeps saying, no, 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 no. Take it home. Take it to mama. Show it to mama. And, this 10, 12-minute drive home for a 2-year-old with a piece of candy in her hand
Yeah.
is forever. And I just remember when the cab driver pulls up and my mom is standing in the door and she comes out, she gets me. And as soon as we walk into the house, I was like, Mama, look what I found on the floor. Can I eat it? And she took it and it was one of my grandmother's heart pills. I probably would have been out of here. Checked out. We would not be having this conversation
You'd be a
today.
sick little girl.
Yeah. So that was the first time I remember the voice. However, I don't know if I've shared this with you. And I would tell my mom from the time I was very little how I remembered being in her stomach. And I
Wow.
remembered the sensations. And it was so like comforting, and it was so like warm, and like it was just a really great experience, like feeling. And I could so vividly remember it.
Can you remember it now? Like,
I can still kind of feel that sensation. It's, yeah, it was, I mean, I would say, and she was like, nobody remembers
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But no, truly, like for real, I did. It wasn't like I was imagining something.
yeah.
And so, I mean, even when I think about it now, I'm like, well, how? I don't know. There are significant things even about that I remember about that gestation period.
Wow.
It was amazing. But then you and I briefly went back even further, where I said, I actually just have a very vivid memory before I was actually born.
You said that to me. When did you tell me
Yeah,
that?
yeah. This
I
has
don't
been.
remember that.
Oh, yeah. We talked about this.
What? Tell me
Yeah,
again.
yeah. So, where I just remember standing with, like, it was like a God figure.
Oh, holding hands. Is this the holding hand?
Yes, and
Okay,
we were
okay,
holding
okay.
hands, and it was. I just remember it was so beautiful. It's like blue skies, green grass, and this God figure, or who is smiling and just kind of loving me into this journey. It was like my send off from
Wow.
wherever. And that was another thing that, oh gosh, like, whew, so vivid. It's not a dream.
Yeah.
It's so not a dream.
When you shared that, okay, so thanks for sharing that, because now I remember I don't know what we were talking about, but I guess in my mind when you told me that, I wasn't, because I didn't know that, honestly, that you're open to that. So I wasn't thinking, oh, you're thinking that is a part of your past life, or right before you came here, whenever it was. But then I shared with you, I just have an image that just comes all the time when I'm praying, just of, especially I think if I'm have anxiety, or if I'm feeling stressed.
Yeah.
It is, I don't see a face, but I do see our hands, and I'm holding this person's hand, and what feels like a God presence to me.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I can't say that I can see the face.
Yeah.
But it's probably more like
Love.
the smiling, the energy
Yeah.
of love. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Tell me about your dreams, and then we'll talk about the book.
So
Any dreams that you want to share? I don't know.
yeah, so I started having kind of maybe some people call them prophetic dreams that I remember when I was in junior high. And a lot of times they were warnings of something. And they became very scary for me for a while because I'd have, and I could tell those dreams from just random dreams. Like they're very different.
Yeah.
And so when I'd have one of those dreams and it was a warning of something, it started to kind of scare me. And so I started, probably it was a while that they would scare me. It was my early 20s when I just would either start to kind of pray away, like come against whatever, because it was, which I also like saw worked, where there's something where it was maybe somebody close to me and I was certain. So sometimes the dreams will be someone and I'm like, that's not the person. But it's a forewarning of someone close. But then there are other times where it's like, no, that's the person that this dream is giving me this message about. And so I remember one person that I had talked to about these dreams, and she said, if you ever have a dream about me, don't tell me.
Oh.
Right? It's like, don't tell me. Because it would scare her.
Right.
There was once I had a dream that my mom had died. It was so very, very, very real. And I don't know, a couple of days later, she was actually at the casino in Tama, and she passed out, coded.
Oh my gosh. What?
They're having to do CPR. Yeah. I'd had the dream, and it was, yeah, it was
super freaky.
Yeah.
For you to go, oh, okay. Grateful. I mean, how did you feel? Because you didn't say anything to your mom about it. So my experience with dreams is, I don't have dreams like that. I need to start asking for them, because I do think we can have them. Absolutely. I think the story is too long, but some of the dream stuff that I have been told by, so we've worked with a medical intuitive who you now work with. Her name is Julie Wright. She's amazing. She's worked with doctors and all over the world, I think. But just some really very, very cool circumstances that brought her into my life. The whole thing was like so crazy. But skipping to the dream part, she told me that as well. She said how you can differentiate dreams is if they don't make sense, and they don't make sense, then whatever. No, it was if they're sequential. So if they are not sequential, then they're just, weird food or whatever. But if they are sequential, then that is something to pay attention to, whether it be for you or for someone else. And she's told me some pretty amazing, both happy endings and sad endings. So that's probably hard, especially when you're first so sort of understanding or accepting that, oh, maybe God, the universe, spirit is whatever is trying to tell me something.
Yeah. So even with the person who told me don't tell her the dreams, it was not long after that I had a very strong dream about her. And it was one where I try and honor what people ask of me.
Yeah.
It was something that did not make sense to me, but it was a very strong warning. Like I didn't have a clue of, it was, but I was like, I've got to warn her. I don't know what I don't know that this is going on. I don't know I don't know what this is. And so I told her, even though she told me not to, but I felt obligated to. She's so close to me. I can't not. And whatever it meant, I didn't ask her what it meant. It like really impacted her. She changed her whole weekend plans. I don't even know what the deal was, but obviously it meant something.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was my business to ask. Right. That's not my business.
Right.
At all. Like, I'm not a nosy person.
Right.
But I just
did your part.
gave the information.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really profound for her.
What was I going to say about that? Oh, I know something else that I learned working with Julie. So we started working with Julie 18, almost 20 years ago. Yeah. Yep. And 18 years ago. And one of the other things she taught me about dreams are that, and it's energy, right? So she's a medical intuitive. And so,
Do you want to explain to people too
yeah,
what
you
a
go ahead
medical
because you're working
intuitive?
with her. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you've done it longer.
Well, so I would not presume to know exactly how it all works, but I do think, and Julie has shared with me, we all have the same gift. We all have the capacity to tap into there's our spirit and the power that we have within us to connect to a higher power. And we all have that. Julie has, for whatever reason, just like you, and I do in many ways, just not in dreams. And I think we all do. But anyway, with the dream, particularly the intuitive, or I'm sorry, let me preface that. You're asking me what the intuitive is. So Julie's a medical intuitive specifically. She can do a lot of cool things, but she's able to tap into your body's energy and tell you all kinds of things. I could tell you a lot of really cool stories, but she can see where you're lacking in lots of things. Like, give me an example. I'm drawing blanks.
So, like for me, when she did a reading, and with this, Julie has never done like a virtual meeting. It's
No, she
only
doesn't
been
need to
phone.
see you.
She does
She does
not.
have to have your permission. So when she
Yeah.
worked with my kids, she'd have to say, so quick example
Mm-hmm.
of what an intuitive does. And this could be just Julie or everyone. Everyone has sort of their own nuances probably. But so Julie I met her on a plane, crazy stuff. Coming home from a USANA convention, happened to sit next to her. One of our children was going through a really, really hard time. He was young, little, and for a year he had been having bad dreams, and I was really experiencing a tough time. And I hated being gone, and I was gone. And on my way home, I met her. She tells me what she does. I told her about our child. When I got home, I ended up calling her, and she said, she'd be happy to work with us, but she'd need our child's permission to just work with him and his energy, his being. And so, he was little, and I asked, and he didn't know, but he goes, yeah. So she did her thing. She doesn't talk to the person, doesn't need to talk to the person really. She didn't talk to him personally. He was little. She likely talks to adults, but didn't talk to him. And she said, so this is what will happen. He will have a few dreams, like 2 to 3 dreams, and it'll be like a detoxing thing. And then he won't remember anything at all. And so that's how she worked with him. That was our first experience. And then we have many, many more where she gave the report and all this stuff. I don't recall her sending a report about our child.
Okay.
She probably did, but it was like 20 years ago. However, that's exactly what happened. Where he was every night consoling, not like he wasn't like bawling his head off, but every night, I would have to go in and, cuddle with him and reassurance. And it was almost a year that this was going on. So
Wow.
really, really challenging time.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened. In fact, I forgot. And then, I don't know, maybe 2 months later, I was like, oh, honey, I said, I don't even know. I think it was even later, way later in life, I asked if he remembered that, and he had to really work to recall it.
Wow.
Yeah, completely forgot. And I don't think I even brought it up to him when he was little because it just all of a sudden was good. I did know about the dreams. He did tell me that he had dreams. But that was it. 3 dreams, done.
Wow.
But that's one of the things. But then she can take the deeper dive and look at, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but just
well,
like
she'd look at body systems. Like
yes,
I knew
body
I was
systems.
dehydrated.
Yeah.
She could tell I was dehydrated. She'd say, like, she'd send a message and say, drink 3 extra glasses of water a day for the next 3 days, and then go 2 extra or 4 or whatever. It was always something like hydrating for my body and my cells, and even for like looking to see where the tumors were and what was active and what was not. So she was actually able, without me saying, this is where the tumor is located or whatever, she was actually able to see where it was at. She was able to just do some guidance on like reversing that energy. She guided me through lots of things there. She was also able to check other systems within my body.
Yeah.
And
And there's like numbers, like norms in energetically what they're supposed to be. And then she can tell you
Right.
where they're at. And then she does a reset.
she does the reset.
Yep.
That was like really weird to me the first time. Simply because you don't know when she's going to do it.
Right.
You don't know when she's going to do the reading. You don't know when she's going
Right.
to do the reset.
Right.
She may just say it'll be within the next
Few days
few
or
days, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know. We were actually coming back from an appointment in Iowa City.
You and I?
Yeah, we were. And I'm usually, my energy levels have always been good, you know. But I just remember being really tired. And I didn't understand. I was like, gosh, you know, like I just felt so tired. And I couldn't figure out why I was so tired. Well, she had done a reading that I didn't know about, or a reset. I'm sorry, not reading, but the reset. I didn't know she'd done the reset. And then she sent me the message, and, you know, basically that explained it. I was like, I didn't understand why I got so tired, but she was resetting energies within my body.
Sorry.
Which I know probably some people are.
Well, this is the
thinking,
weird part, right?
Right.
You know, we're not talking about this at, you know, dinners with, or lunches or coffees with, you know, your in work situations and stuff. But
I was so surprised though, like, and the next time it was the same thing. Like I just got with the next reset, didn't know when it was going to happen. A day again where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
And then, you know, find out she's done a reset.
Yeah.
Super interesting, super different.
It's just, it is. And I think, oh, I remember now what I was going to say was that with the dream and talking to the person who asked not to know about it, and you do feel that responsibility. What I learned also from her, again, she's worked with, I mean, there's 9 of us, not counting kids as partners and stuff. I think she's probably done resets on all of the kids but one.
Wow.
And then a couple of my personal family members. But what she said is when she does the reset, this is just a picture of what it is right now. She can tell you energetically where things are headed. She is incredibly intelligent and educated, and holy moly, just a vast. She's just amazing. But she says that we have the power to change energetically where we're going to head. Meaning, and we have talked about this. So it's just as simple as, all right, so if it looks like, you know, your let's say your lungs, okay, your lungs aren't looking good, and that system isn't looking good, and it's measuring low or however she does her stuff, and if you continue on this trajectory, the likelihood of something is pretty high, right? So that doesn't mean that that's going to happen.
Right.
That's a picture of right now. So now what's cool about that is then we can make different choices.
Right.
It's very ethical. It's very, all I can say is, I hate to say it like this, but I'm a believer. And listen, talking about science, I remember when for past lives, going now to the book, if that's okay. I remember hearing for the first time actually through Julie about past lives, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, and I wasn't scared, but I do remember, you know, audibly sort of, you know, the Lord saying to me or feeling that impression of, you know, that's all right. You don't have to be. If you're ready, when you're ready, we can go there.
Yeah.
You know, nothing to be scared of. And so that was really the only time that ever happened to me, because my whole life I've been like, let's go. And I just have never been afraid of hearing what's next.
Right.
I'm so grateful for that. I'm an open book to be like, yeah, show me. And I also think I've had a peace and a trust in that relationship with God that it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me. I will know if it's not something that I'm ready for, or if it's something that could be dangerous or not right or whatever.
Right. Because, well, even with working with Julie or agreeing to work with her, my first thing was to pray, like, God, is this safe? Is it okay? And I got the affirmative. Like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so I felt very good. Of course, I trust you.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
yeah. But
I
it's,
just wanted to make sure that God was okay with me
yeah.
having that experience. And so that I think was really, really good for me to have experienced before this book.
Oh, you mean your experience with Julie?
Yeah,
Okay. Can I
yeah.
say something about that too? Really want to emphasize that I have had this for me, my journey spiritually for me, in the outside the traditional stuff. I grew up Catholic, went to church every Sunday, was confirmed, all the things, almost got married Catholic, just, didn't. My whole journey is, it's to most people, it's crazy. So it's just been a long time.
Yeah.
It's just not like, oh, I was very traditional in my thinking yesterday and I read this
Right.
book and now I'm like, oh, now that could happen for some people. I just want everyone to know that if you are listening to this and you're like, holy moly, that's just so weird. Yeah, I get it. I get it. No, now not for me because it was
Right.
never weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but for my poor husband who grew up with nothing and he's gets comfortable with one thing and then I'm like, nope, hey, guess what? There's more. And he's like, oh my God. But it's been a fun journey. So I just wanted to just preface that for me. And you too, right? I mean, obviously
sure.
since you were little,
Yes.
there's more.
There's so much
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So one of the things in the book that I really resonated with was when Catherine starts to open up where like their spirits have actually connected in prior lives.
Okay, so Catherine, to preface or to be clear, is the
Is the
patient.
patient.
I know I also wanted to say this. The doctor, Dr. Weiss or Weiss, he came highly recommended. And again, we don't want to tell you all the things about the book, but she went to see her regular MD, or was it her pediatrician? She was a grown woman.
Pediatrician.
Yeah, a grown woman. That's the doctor she's known her whole life. And she was having all these issues of fears and anxieties, just really deep fears and anxieties.
Mm-hmm.
And her pediatrician said specifically he wanted her to see this psychiatrist he said, he's the best. You have to go see him. And so she goes to see this specific doctor. Okay.
Yeah. And then when she starts to have these regressions into prior lives, she starts to remember in a sense that she was connected with this pediatrician doctor in prior lives. He was actually her dad in another life.
Yeah.
And that Dr. Weiss and the pediatrician actually were connected as well.
Yes.
And it was just amazing. But the thing that brought up to me was there are people that there is that spiritual connection with that is just beyond what I even have the words to talk about. Like, I don't even know how to express it.
I mean, no. So here's what we said before we started. You don't know. Yeah, I mean,
right? None of us
y'all
know.
don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows.
So
no one knows.
Right?
So why not? I mean, why not? If it's good and wonderful and beautiful and all glory to God, whatever that looks like, because actually I don't know that either.
Right.
But yeah.
God is bigger than the box we put him in.
Yes.
He's so much bigger than the box that we put him in. And so, as a Christian, that it does not shake my Christian faith in Jesus and who he is and what he did for us. Like that doesn't shake my faith in that. It just, for me, knowing the experiences that I had, the memories that I had, even before, like the memory of before gestation, that gestation period, the memories of the gestation period, and then the other memories that go back.
I wanted to bring back to what you said about, that it hasn't shaken this information that you felt drawn to your whole life, but then certainly reading this book and seeing Julie, none of that has shaken you, as it did not me either. And you said something about being Christian. So I want to specify too in this book, her past lives, she was not a Christian. She was
No.
Jewish. She was who knows what. I mean, it went
She was
back
a prostitute
BC.
at
She was a
some point.
prostitute in one life. And he, she just was, this is the opposite of who she is in this life. Like, just
It's
totally not
yeah.
into any of this. She also didn't remember any of the things. She remembered her past lives, but her regressions of this current life, but she did not remember any past life stuff, right?
She didn't, and then he would allow her to listen to the recordings because he
That's right.
started recording all the sessions.
Okay.
He actually brought his wife in as
Yeah,
well
that's where I'm at in the
because it
book,
was just like mind blowing to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got for Catherine to the point where it's really weird and uncomfortable listening to herself, and she didn't want to listen anymore. Like she didn't even
Yeah.
want to listen.
Yeah. What an interesting thing. Okay, so you're going to talk about the one part, the in between. I want to say too that Catherine, the patient, was a very stout Catholic, very strict Catholic, and so some of the things that she learned, even just about past lives, was challenging for her, but she was still willing to come back. She came back
Right.
every week. He didn't really, wasn't like pushing her at all.
No.
She was healing. That's the other part. So she started the psychotherapy and regression of her own current life, and she started to heal just right away. Just like all the
Right.
things, they started figuring things out. And we won't give any of that away to you, but she kept coming back. And there were things that were like that she did learn from the past lives, which is, I think, I'm not there yet, but I think why she didn't want to listen anymore. Is that why? Because it really did challenge her beliefs. So, it will certainly, if you choose to read this book, it's never not been a challenge for a second for me.
Right.
And again, it might, if you choose to read it, might, like Catherine, it might be something you go, oh no, I'm not ready for that. Totally cool.
Yeah.
But again, my thing is, we don't know. Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be cool if that was it? Even Daniel, I shared this with Daniel, who is studying to be.
Oh, you shared the book with him?
I did.
Awesome.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
It's fascinating to me, and it was a lesson for me. It, always is. Which he learns and he teaches us in this book that I've been learning this lesson for a while, and it was really great affirmation about, our journey here is not to change. I'm not here to change you. But I should be not concerned at all. I should be concerned about loving you.
Right.
Of course, boundaries while we're here in this plane, we have to have boundaries for our own health and wellness and the health of the relationship. But it's not my job to change anyone.
Nope.
And that's hard. That is challenging, right? When you're especially when you're in a close relationship. I would say specifically in my experience, a marriage relationship, a partnership like that, and with kids. It's hard to not want to offer your children, to offer your nephews, to offer your life experience, your advice, because you love them, you want to protect them from whatever. And in a marriage relationship, you want them to change because you feel like they're hurting you. There's a fear. It's fear-based, whatever it is. So that's it's not hard,
Right.
But it was nice because the experiences that the guides, the in between that ReShonda is going to share, confirmed that. They were like, that our job is only us, and it's not selfish.
Right.
That is actually how we grow together. It's me being my best self, because then when I choose to think differently about everything, then I feel differently, and then I act accordingly. So anyway, tell me about the in-between.
So the in-between, so when the spirit guides showed up. And so the spirit guides were basically, it's basically like having like angels in a sense, is how I would describe it as well. And there were things that Catherine was bringing up that actually the spirit guides, I felt like really needed
That's
to
what we'll call 'em.
yes,
Okay.
that they needed to convince Dr. Weiss that these things are for real that she's saying. I think it was part of what needs to be confirmed.
Also, so this happened after each past life, that there were many. She had 86
Mm-hmm.
in total, I think 83 or 86. After each death of each life, this is the in between, where there'd be a waiting period. We don't know what that really means. Like how, I don't know, you might know further into the
No.
book, but it was just the period of time where there's a waiting before you say yes to the next life. And in that space is very loving. And when she was in the waiting space, that's when her spirit guides chose to speak through her
Mm-hmm.
to Dr. Weiss.
Right.
She did not remember anything the guides used to say to
Nope.
her. Everything about how she talked, her voice was different, her cadence was
Right.
different, her everything was different. Okay,
Yeah.
now if you would then share some of the messaging that they said. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So there was nothing in his office that showed like his family or,
Yeah,
so, well, that showed this other child that they had.
right.
And so she was able to, through the spirit guides, tell him about this other child that he'd had, and how this child had died. But that was the reason that the child was born, actually, was like that gift, the gift that that child was giving to him, or to them. There was a growth and there was a shift
Yeah.
in what he was doing, like in his chosen career path that came about as a result of his son dying.
His little boy, because this is part I just got done reading
Mm-hmm.
yesterday. So, or hearing, the little boy that they had died at 23 days old.
Mm-hmm.
It was, shattering for them. Catherine was already born, right?
Yeah.
And it was this little boy. There would be no way for Catherine, like
There's
he's
no
super,
way.
super ethical. Dr. Weiss was like, they don't have anything in their offices. They don't have
Mm-mm.
any, contact. He doesn't share anything personal with his patients, on and on. So the guides that were in this in-between time after one of Catherine's deaths, I'm just reiterating this. It's good for me. So just we're able to say that he has passed on, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a very high level of spirituality
Yes.
when he came to the planet and that life, and he chose to leave when he chose to leave because of the growth that it offered Dr. Weiss and his
Right.
family.
Yes.
And then whatever else that was, it was super beautiful.
Yeah.
He was almost at that time when he died, his son died. He kind of, before he died or something, did he get rocked? Like he wasn't even sure he wanted to go into psychology,
Right.
psychiatry,
Psychology.
psychiatry. He wasn't even sure. So then when his son died, is that part of why he stayed? I can't remember how that went.
Yeah, he was actually going on a whole different
Mm,
path.
mm.
And then once his son died, and he's like, the medical field, they can't save people. And so he
Oh,
left and went into the field, that the psychotherapy
oh, I
career
see.
path.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
it shifted
Yeah.
what he decided to do with his life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what else?
And even knowing uh, the name that they used for his dad.
Oh yeah. Tell him about that.
Yeah, so there is the name that they would call his dad, which was, I don't remember if it was like his Jewish name or it was a religious type of a name
It was his Jewish name.
that they would call him, that there was no way she would know.
Okay. Yeah. So like, I don't even know, because I don't know anything about, like, a Jewish, traditional Jewish name, which would be hard to say, and no one would say it. So they actually called him what, Adam or something like
Yeah,
that?
it
No, that was
was,
the son. Like, let's just say it was John.
yeah.
The Jewish name, that his traditional Jewish name, his dad's, Dr. Weiss's dad's traditional Jewish name was hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
So they called him John, we're going to say. And the guides in between that were speaking through Catherine and talking to Dr. Weiss during her session, telling him all these things that no one would know,
Mm-mm.
used his father's traditional Jewish name, which no one would know. So we're kind of just sharing with you how bizarre it was to Dr. Weiss to go, this very, very traditional scientific, you got to prove it to me guy.
Mm-hmm.
The guides were doing that. They were saying,
Yeah.
and he was feeling it was really cool to hear him say both things were happening. He was blown away, like what? Like, with his regular brain, but also like this peace came over him.
Right. Because through them, he was able to have a short reconnection with his dad and his son.
Yeah.
And he was so grateful, and it gave him a lot of peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of healing. It felt like that was done for him that he didn't even know maybe he needed healed still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say, what like in the middle of the book, this is kind of the beginning of the book, what happens sort of in the middle of the book?
In the middle of the book, there's more lives that
Okay.
are unearthed in a sense, and it's talking about more things that happen maybe through her deaths that were causing all of these anxieties. The
For
fears,
Catherine.
the way that she maybe died in a past life was actually causing fears in this life,
Mhm.
and so him being able to just kind of help her process through and kind of wipe those memories out.
Mm.
That was
Like a
a big,
fast forward healing kind of, like she had that opportunity to do that.
yes. And then there were also things where there was a time where she she talks about his death,
Oh, I'm not there
but
yet.
she doesn't tell him like the when or the how, but she tells him that he's got quite a bit more time.
Oh.
So yeah, it was like, oh, it was just so much, because especially when you get through it, because even was questioning, like, is she really,
Sure.
for real,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
was there something in her background or her current state that would make her, like, is she schizophrenic? And then as I'm having the questions,
He's having them too.
he's having them too.
Mhm.
And then he's validating that, nope, none of this is
Yep.
made up.
And I think even in the beginning, he really stresses all of that, like his skepticism and all the work that he did to prove her wrong, actually.
Yeah.
Because, how could this really be?
Right.
And that helps me feel better, right? That
Right.
even though I totally believe it, but I don't know, we don't know. But it's because of my mind, and I guess probably most of ours, because we don't know, the facts help, the science helps.
Yeah.
And so, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of stories. What I thought was cool too is about children. He refers to it, which I didn't know, and I'm excited to sort of go down this road. It's been a minute. I spent a period of my life really learning about a lot of this. And so then it's just in me now, but to revisit and to hear the stories. But he was sharing about all the research and studies and stories, documentation from little children, like that
Right.
have no, they, even if they wanted to, right, they couldn't do anything. And it all lined up with everything that she's saying. So that was really cool. So going back to Daniel, and we'll probably have to close because we have short amount of time today, but I hope you all read this. And maybe we'll talk about it again. But with Daniel, I think we actually got into a little bit of not an argument, but I think I forget sometimes that have known this, and this isn't challenging for me. And so I was excited. It's an Audible book, and I was excited to share it with him. And he's in this field in college for this field. And he is very open and very, very smart and all the things. And we had lots of talks about spirituality versus religion and all those things. So he's very open. Well, when I said something about it and I said past lives, what he knows now, year one in college, is that it's not accepted.
Right. Yes.
They're not teaching you, oh, you should go look into, past lives and do that kind of stuff. And so he challenged me a bit on it, and I had just started the book. So I know, and actually I don't care to go in and try to prove anything to you.
No.
I don't want to do that. And I guess that's what I'm figuring out right now. That was my resistance, was I didn't want to have to, and I wouldn't have known how to explain it at that point. But anyway, so it's interesting. And I think my takeaway from it is God is big. And my invitation would be to everyone is to be open and maybe ask what's the worst thing that could happen. Like dial that back. We do that a lot, in coaching and stuff, to dial it back to ask what's if you read something that gave you hope of an afterlife and what that could look like and what it might be like. And even if it's just to hear about someone else's experience that we could learn, I guess that's just being willing to learn about other people's experience, which makes us more compassionate and empathetic.
Yeah.
That would be my encouragement, to say, if you are feeling something, that's okay, but to ask what that is and why am I feeling that? Because fear or love, follow the love. That's it, I guess. What would you say?
Yeah. So I would say it's one of those where someone may, if it's new to them especially, feel a little scared. Just fear of like, what am I, opening my mind up to? But I'll say there's nothing scary about it. The way that the book is written, there's nothing scary about it. He's not trying to force any beliefs and thought processes on anyone.
Right.
And so I think for a lot of people, it may actually give them more of a peace, because most people I know are fearful of death.
Yeah.
And when you listen to or read this book, I think for a lot of people, it would probably release them from that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah. If anything else, that's super duper interesting. Super, super cool. Yeah, we could talk. It's my favorite thing. Favorite thing to talk about.
We'll probably talk more.
Yeah, we will.
some point.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, you guys. Thank you for giving us your time. We so
Yes.
appreciate you.
We do. Remember to like
yes.
and subscribe and share.
Yes.
We really appreciate that.
I think share this with someone, because I know a couple of people are coming up for me. And gosh, I really hope we do follow up, because I would be so willing to talk about my experiences with working with Julie and a couple of other intuitives and how that came into my life. You don't know any of those stories.
No.
That onion has not been peeled for you.
Wow.
People in my personal family, and stuff you don't go looking for. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm going to go look for this stuff that's outside of traditional anything. But I'm thinking about people that have had someone close to them and experienced death, and it's been really hard. I think this would be a really good share, to share this podcast. Yes. And to share the book, Many
sure.
Lives,
Many Masters.
Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And he is a physician. I think he's world renowned. I don't know if that's true, but he's got a ton of credibility. So anyway, maybe share it with someone that that has had someone die and then is still struggling, or maybe not struggling, just want to give them some comfort. But thank you so much for listening, y'all. We love you.
Yes,
and
we do.
I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm ReShonda Young.
And we are Sister Friends.
Thanks for tuning in to Sister Friends. We hope these conversations help you see things from a new angle, feel a little more connected, and maybe even laugh along the way.
Remember, whether it's family, work, or those elephants in the room we all deal with, everything really is about relationships.
If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. Share your thoughts, share this podcast with a friend, and let's keep building those connections.
Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep growing together.